I made a mistake watching this show, or at least that's what I thought a couple hours after I watched the first episode. You see, I normally get up at 5:30 because I like to go to the gym first thing, and I have a very long commute into work thanks to the seemingly never-ending roadworks near me. But a couple Mondays back, I happened to be up at 5 instead. So I had a little extra time, and even though I've never once done this, I decided, okay, I'm gonna start a new series before I go to work. I knew nothing about Sub 100. I'd heard it mentioned a few times, but I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But this is one of, if not the best, episode 1 I've ever seen in the series. It's powerful, it's unique, it's full of life and energy. And that energy definitely carried over to me. I felt incredible at the end of this episode. I could feel this whole new perspective growing and was even inspired to write my own list, as I'll come back to. But that energy faded over my long commute. And as I parked up and began the walk from the car park to the office, it was the first half of the episode, rather than the second, that floated around my mind. Because as appealing as quitting a soul-crushing job and living life however we want sounds, we have bills to pay, so we can't, right? So I initially thought all the show was going to do is remind me of all the things I could be doing. But as I watched more of it and had more time to think about it, I realized that that's not actually what the show is about. The first episode concludes with our main character deciding to write a list of 100 things he wants to do before he dies. And if you've also been inspired to try this, you'll have had the same realization both me and Akira had, where you realize that you can't get anywhere near 100 things right away. And there's a couple points on this. The first of which is that chances are a lot more things could go on that list if you let them, but we kind of talk ourselves out of it and say, well, that's unrealistic or that's silly. But I love that Akira isn't bound by this at all. You know, some of the ones on here, grow a beard, get a good night's sleep, clean my room, things that necessarily have to change the world or anything at all, really, to mean a lot. And accepting that is something I used to really struggle with. But as I said before, you know, I'm a big believer in working hard and making necessary sacrifices, but take some time to do all those little things you want to do. Both Akira's world going grey and Shizuka's development in those first 3 episodes demonstrates this perfectly, but I want to make a whole separate video on that. So going back to the list, at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have some of the crazy ones, you know, get a solid gold watch, become a superhero, ride an ostrich. I don't have a clue how he's going to manage that last one, but he's got a lifetime to do so, and there's no rush. One I found myself quite weirdly hesitant to write down was score the winning point in a team sport. Probably sounds silly to some people, but hey, who cares? Now, the second point on the struggle to fill this list is it initially seems really surprising because throughout the day we're constantly thinking, I wish I was doing this, I wish I had that, I wish I was at that place. We definitely have a lot of desires throughout the day, but as what we've just spoke about proves, a lot of them are honestly probably just coming from our natural tendency to imagine things better in our head than they actually are. Before I started this channel, often when I came home it was just playing video games or watching TV, and although it's nice to be able to relax, etc., it was never really as great as I envisioned it being whilst I was at work, you know. I was so keen to rush home from work, just to not really know what I was going to do once I got back. But that's not really the issue. The issue was, I'd been so caught up on all these things I could be doing if I wasn't at work, and all these things I hate about it, that it's just making me miserable whilst I'm there. In fact, so miserable that it carries over to when I'm home. I know it sounds like such cliche, almost useless advice for me to just say, oh, focus on the positive, not the negative. But it actually makes a huge difference. You know, all these bright colors, the blue sky, the green trees that Akira saw, they were always there. But when you're always thinking about how you can't wait to get home, you can't wait for the weekend, you can't wait for that time off, and when you're constantly thinking about how much you hate the current moment, well, of course the world is going to end up looking very, very grey. I honestly think to even write a list of 100 things that will really set your soul alight is going to take a little while to do. Maybe a few months, maybe a few years, maybe even longer, who knows, but the point is, unless you look for these things, it's so easy for life to just become this colourless, grey loop. Obviously there's extreme cases, like Akira's job, but I think a lot of us, especially me, would start to enjoy our jobs even just a little bit more if, rather than constantly thinking about all the complaints we have, we just made the most of it, because we're going to be there for 8 or 9 hours anyway, right? So what have we got to lose? And obviously, like, it's still work, it's still probably going to suck, but I'm definitely making it feel worse than it actually is. And find a few things which add some color to your week. Besides the weekend, like something that makes you say, oh, I get to do this after work today. You know, for me, I've started going to a little like board game cafe once a week after work, just playing board and card games with strangers. It's great fun. And of course, all of what I've just said, like, it's damn tough. You know, there's a lot of things Zone 100 exaggerates about office culture, but I'm sure anyone with an office job would agree that these are exaggerations and not just completely made up. You know, so for example, like, I've not experienced this myself because I just show my laptop at 5 on the dot and walk out. But I've never once seen anyone say they're glad they spent extra time at the office. All I've ever seen people say is that it did nothing for their career and just cost them time with their family or even their health in extreme cases. You know, thankfully, I think I already learned that at university, where I look back and realize I spent so much time working for nothing. You know, sure, I got a first, but so what? I could have definitely done less, got the exact same results, and actually enjoyed myself at uni instead of just being miserable. And honestly, that is something I will regret forever. So if you ever feel like you're insane to being the only one who doesn't want to do an hour of unpaid overtime every day, like, you're not. Trust me, you're not. Your job does not own you. And you don't need to wait for a zombie apocalypse to make a change. You know, job hunting is a slow, painful process, but you can always start looking elsewhere, and you shouldn't be afraid to at all. You know, of course, some things will always suck no matter what job you go to, so you have to be reasonable about this, but watching Akira in this first episode, it really puts everything into perspective. You know, it was such an important reminder. Obviously, this video didn't go into the ideas quite as deep as I usually do, but I'm super excited to talk about the rest of the show because it gets into some really interesting ideas. You know, both with Kensho's talk with Akira in episode 3, Shizuka's talk with him in episode 7, but for now, what am I taking away from episode 1? Do your job, do your hours, then go home and start crossing things off that list. Because, and this is the most important part of the whole video, there's so much more to this world that we're just not letting ourselves experience. So start today. Thanks for watching, bro. I've got a couple more Zone 100 videos lined up. As mentioned, I wanted to keep this one just to episode 1, so subscribe if you want to see the rest of them. Have a great day, and I'll see you again soon.